A quick lesson on how to play Crocodiles by Echo and the Bunnymen. This one's been requested by quite a few people and it contains some fantastic guitar work from the wonderful Will Sargent. I'm going to do my best to try and get to the bottom of what he's doing on this one, so let's get started. So it goes something like that, and I actually found this one quite challenging to figure out and to play. I suppose to some extent that's true of all of the songs that I look at, these kind of guitar covers where you've got to get inside the mind and playing style of another player. But in particular with this one, it's quite challenging to play it exactly like the record. I certainly can't do that, but I hope I've got reasonably close here. So yeah, this track is from 1980, appears on the album which is called Crocodiles, a classic record which also contains the track Rescue, which I did a video on a year or two ago. Probably you can check that out elsewhere on this YouTube channel, but let's get started now. I'm just going to take you through how to play this one section by section, so let's go. There's a lot of A minor in this tune, so you're going to need to know this one and the opening riff. So. And at first sight it seems like you're just messing around with an A minor chord, but there's a little bit more to it than that, and it's actually harder than I thought it was to get this sounding more or less right. So we're going to begin with the A minor chord, just a regular open position A minor chord, and we've got these big aggressive hits on A minor, and then got some open strings in there as well. So the way I'm doing it is I'm just fretting the A minor and then lifting up fingers 2 and 3 to allow some open strings to come through. I mean, it could be occasionally all of the fingers are lifted up and it's just open strings, but it sounds closest to the record to me if I'm keeping my first finger down most of the time. And then you've got this kind of sound. And sometimes you're hitting the full chord, other times you're really just hitting the fifth string, the root note of that chord, and you're setting up this rhythm, this ding. That kind of idea. I think it's going to sound best if you're playing with all down strokes here, and you could try. That doesn't sound bad, but it doesn't quite have the attitude that you're getting on the record. You know, it's played quite aggressively. It's very kind of abrasive, this kind of big spiky riff. So I think if you dig in with all downstrokes, it's going to sound best. And also there's a little bit of fretting hand muting going on here as well. So when you want to emphasize that rhythm, you can just release pressure with that A minor chord, and it's cutting that chord short, which reinforces the rhythm. You also might get some nice scratches and muted notes in there as well. So that's essentially what's going on with this opening riff. Kind of impossible to play it exactly like the record with something like this, so I think just try and capture some of the attitude and the energy on the record, but ultimately you're going to have to try and do things your own way to some extent, I think, with this one. And then just before the vocals enter, you're just bashing away on that open fifth string there. So this is where muting is important once again, so releasing pressure with the chord. I'm using my thumb here to touch the low E string just to keep that under control. Then you can really bash all of the strings and you're only going to get that one note coming through. Then we're into the verse, which is still mostly A minor, but there are some little fills and variations. So it's the part that goes like this. you can hear that it continues with that A minor rhythm that we had right at the top of the song. And then we've got these kind of higher chords played up here. So I'm playing at the 7th fret on the 2nd, 3rd and 4th strings, and then at the 5th fret on the same string. So these are kind of triad shapes, I suppose, a D triad and a C triad, and we're just using those shapes as accents. So it varies a little bit sort of where these occur and the precise rhythm. So the way I'm playing it in the verse, I'm kind of starting off going from the 7th fret to the 5th fret, and then the second time through I'm going the other way. I'm going from 5 to 7. So it's not always like that on the recording. You can play around and vary how you do that, but so that will be one way of doing it, I think. So if I just put that together slowly, we've got this. Again, playing that mostly with downstrokes here, and up to tempo that can be quite challenging, keeping those downstrokes going. So although you're playing aggressively, you still want to stay loose and relaxed in your strumming hands. Next we've got this bit. Really just some chord hits, and we're just going from a G to the A minor. So G, and play the G in a few different ways. I think I'm playing it like this. So root note, muting the 5th string, then 3 open strings, back to A minor. We do that 3 times, and then we hold on the G, and then back to the main riff. We go around for another verse, another chorus, then we've got this lovely break and bridge section which starts off like this. So this nice twangy bit, it starts with just a chord strum just on an E or an E minor, and then just some simple descending twangy notes. I'm just playing on the low E string here, 3, 2, 3, open, and I think repeating that 4 times. And then we've got this really beautiful bridge section. This is probably my favourite part of the tune. It's the bit that goes like this. So we're really just taking a triad shape all the way up the neck, and got this droning open 5th string. So it starts off just with an A chord, and then we're taking this triad up the neck. So we've got a series of different triads over that A bass note, so kind of slash chords if you like. So we're starting with the A, and we're just embellishing that triad shape. So I'm just putting down the 3rd fret here on the 2nd string, so it's like a sus4. And then just in passing, I'm playing the 4th fret on the 3rd string, so that the pattern is this. And then I'm sliding up to the next triad shape, so going up to fret 4. And doing exactly the same move, so putting down my 2nd finger and then the 3rd finger. Up to the 5th fret, sliding up to the 7th fret, 9, 10, 12, and then finishing at the 14th fret. I'm just barring all the way across. I can hear that high F sharp in there, kind of an A6 sound. So what a beautiful part that is. And what else have we got? There are a couple more riffs that happen towards the end of the tune, and there's one where it gets slightly busier in the strumming that sounds like this. We've got some so something along those lines. I'm playing in the 5th position here. It's this, I suppose it's kind of an A minor 7 sound. I've got this little triad shape, but I've got the open 5th string as well. And I've now got some upstrokes in there. I'm playing kind of 16th note pattern. And I've got some single notes in there too. So it's the chord. And I'm trying to bring out the 7th fret on the 3rd string. And then 7th fret on the 4th string. And there are sometimes some other notes in there as well. Sometimes it's more of a double stop, but that's the basic part, I think. Then there's something like this. A similar kind of idea, just that droning open string and then 7 and 5. And then it settles into this kind of riff. So we're back to that A minor thing like at the top of the tune. The rhythm is now slightly different. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So keeping the strumming hand just moving in 8th notes. And then I'm using my fretting hand just to squeeze down the chord shape to bring that out. So let's talk about gear, and there are certainly some lovely tones to be found on the original recording. Not exactly sure how they were achieved. I know that Will Sargent is associated with Telecasters, Jaguars. I'm not sure what he would have used amplification wise. Maybe there's some information out there. If anybody knows what was used on this record, do let me know. But I'm using my Telecaster 52 reissue, and I wanted to try and get close to that sound on the record, and it is quite a spiky, aggressive kind of a sound. Initially I was plugged into my Fender Princeton, but that just sounded a little bit too polite, so I ended up using the Marshall behind me, Studio Vintage Marshall, and that sounded a lot closer. And the sound on the record, the main rhythm part, it's not super overdriven. It's quite a clean part, just a touch of drive, so you have to be quite careful with this Marshall, which does distort quite easily. So I've kept the volume quite low on that, and that seemed to get in the right kind of area for this sound. So that was my main rhythm sound. Then I've got a couple of pedals down here. I stomped on this pedal here, the Depths by Earthquaker Devices, during that break section. It sounds like there's some kind of Leslie speaker or something going on, so I thought that pedal would be appropriate. And then on that ascending bridge section I was using a bit of chorus from the Boss CE2 Wazza pedal. So that all sounds like this. Telecaster straight into the Marshall. And then the Earthquaker Devices pedal. And then I'll just switch that off and turn on the Boss chorus, which sounds like this. So there we go. Hope you enjoyed this one. I am going to be writing out a little tab for this, and I'll put that up on the Patreon page. And I'm certainly not averse to looking at more Bunnymen tracks in the future. So if you've got any suggestions, just let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.